The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening. I'm Pete Mulford. I'm a therapist and coach, and I'm going to be running this webinar tonight. People are still just logging on, so I'll just give people a few seconds to actually log on. You should be all able to see my screen now. As it says there, for those people that are joining us, I'm Pete Mulford, and I'm a therapist and coach. And I do what I do today because back in 2003, my wife Debbie was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and well, some doctors referred to it as chronic fatigue syndrome, some doctors referred to it as ME. But the key thing was there was no real help. There was a lot of confusion, and the only real help was the offer of antidepressants if she got fed up with having no life or any hope of recovery. Before I get going though, I'd like to just explain a few things. I'm going to be asking you to have a look at some YouTube videos as we go, because for example Debbie, my wife, is putting her little girl to bed, so she can't be with us tonight, but we have recorded her speaking, and it's useful to know how to operate the software. So you've got a little control panel like this that you should be able to see. The key things for you is these bits over here. If your control panel disappears, this icon here in orange will bring it back or hide it. Okay. This one is obviously expands it or contracts it. The other one that's useful is this one here. This allows you to put your hands up. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be asking you to look at a YouTube video, and then when you finish watching the YouTube video, if you can just pop your hands up for me by clicking on that icon, I can then see on my control panel that you've raised your icon, or you've raised your hand rather, and I can then carry on with my part of the presentation. And once you've raised your hand, just click on it again, and your hand will go back down again. So just bring it up for a bit and then pop it back down again. Okay, that's great. So the presentation tonight, the webinar, basically is on what we learned as Debbie got better. And it's on, you know, I talk about alternative and effective treatments for chronic fatigue. We talk about what we actually tried, what we learned, and what we actually found in the end was of most help for her. Now, how it all began. Let's start at the beginning. Certainly for us, the beginning started with Debbie's story. Prior to Debbie becoming ill with chronic fatigue or ME, I hadn't really come across the condition at all. Debbie basically was, you know, an energetic, hard-working teacher, struck down by a mysterious illness. Nobody knew what it was. She went to the doctors. She had a flu-like symptom, and it just kind of spiraled from there. But what we'll do is I'll let you hear Debbie talking about it herself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a link on your little interface. It will come up on the chat icon. If you click on it, you'll be able to actually watch Debbie speaking about it herself. So I'm just going to copy it. I'm just going to paste it now. Okay, so if you look at your little control icon, I'll just whiz back so that you can see it. So here now, on your desktop, you should see a link which you can follow, and then you can just watch Debbie speaking and talking herself. Okay, that's great, thank you. I can see people are coming to the end of the YouTube video, the hands are going up. So for those of you that have just joined, the silence was because I'd sent a link to a YouTube video that people were watching, which was my wife Debbie talking about when she was diagnosed. If you didn't get that, if for some unknown reason there were technical problems, all of this you'll get a link to later anyway, which will allow you to go through the presentation and see the YouTube videos again. So basically Debbie ended up with this diagnosis of chronic fatigue or ME, and that was pretty much it. That was pretty much all the help we got. I got on the net and I investigated it all to see what it meant, and I found that the list of symptoms that people with ME and chronic fatigue got is huge. Not everybody gets all of them. Some people get more than others, etc. And that's this big list here. And basically Debbie had all the ones that were in red. So she had the severe fatigue, she had the exercise intolerance, she had the cognitive dysfunction or the brain fog. If I ask her what she wanted for tea, even making that decision was often too much. She had problems with her autonomic nervous system, as it says here, palpitations. She'd often describe like a feeling where she felt like she was shaking inside. Temperature control was all off. She'd faint for no apparent reason as well. That was another thing that she had. She'd often get the flu-like symptoms, the original virus that she had. The symptoms were, still with her months later. She had autoimmune problems. Her thyroid was being attacked by her immune system, and at one stage that was what the doctors wanted to do, was to give her thyroxine, but she didn't end up taking that, and now it's fine. She had sleep disturbances. She wouldn't sleep all through the day and not feel rested, have trouble getting off to sleep at night. We noticed as well that she'd become very alcohol intolerant. At the time when she was ill, we were both teachers, and we both used to have a glass of wine in the evening to relax. We were kind of in that vicious circle of coffee during the day to give us a boost and keep us going, and a glass of alcohol in the evening to mellow us out and relax us. And she'd become very intolerant to it. A glass of wine would certainly trigger off these symptoms even more excessively. And so in the end she stopped having the wine, because she realised that if she had it, she was then bad for several days afterwards. And basically I'd had unsatisfactory experiences with the NHS. I go into this in a bit more detail in other places, but I kind of stopped looking at doctors as necessarily having all of the answers, and I'd been aware that doctors disagree with each other, they have different opinions. Some of them state their opinions as facts, and others will then contradict that. And when I began looking at chronic fatigue and realised that the doctors really weren't going to come up with the answers, I began researching it myself. And initially the results were depressing. I come across tales of people being ill for years and never recovering, and all sorts of sort of horror stories. And for whatever reason, though, I began looking at the stories of those people that did recover. I kind of got to the stage where I thought there's not really anything to learn by listening and reading the story of someone that's been ill for 10 years. There's more to learn from somebody that's been ill for 10 years and then got better. So that's what I started to do. I started to look at those people that got better. And overall, I found common elements. I found common elements between Debbie's story and the other people that I was finding through my research. The common elements were often, and these were certainly true for Debbie: stressful job, stressful private life. She just moved down to Cornwall. She didn't really know anybody. There was often a viral infection that triggered the onset of this mysterious condition. And there was kind of a bit of a characteristic of struggling on, feeling that you're not going to let it beat you. You've got to keep going, kind of mentality. And it often surprises me, and I can understand why people get so upset by it. You find some people that would turn around and say, oh, people with chronic fatigue are lazy. And actually I think it's exactly the opposite way round. I think people with chronic fatigue generally don't know when to stop and don't know when to rest and relax. They're the kind of people that are always on the go. So far from being lazy, I think they're the opposite of lazy. And in Deb's case, symptoms developed and they got worse. They didn't get better with time. And we were going to the doctors, and the doctors didn't know what was making her ill or how to really help her recover. Towards the end, I was going to the doctors with her, because she was coming out of the doctors and I was saying, what did the doctor say? And she was saying, I can't really remember, and she was just so confused that it got to the stage where I had to go with her. I had to go in order to tell the doctor what was happening, and also to hear and understand what the doctor was telling us. And there was a barrage of tests as well, even from the beginning. There was blood tests and sort of talk of other tests, and it was all kind of worrying and scary because the doctors didn't really know what was going on. And so that's what we were left with. There was worry about health. Why was she still ill after, sort of 4 or 5 weeks of a virus? How the school was going to take it, her being off sick, and all of these kind of things were causing worry. And all of the time, more symptoms were developing, and the symptoms she had were just getting worse. And she was just in this spiral of negative health, basically. Now, what we've come to know now, working with a lot of people that have got chronic or had chronic fatigue syndrome and had ME and related conditions, is that there's often other initial circumstances. We've noticed sometimes people are just living in the fast lane, so they won't be aware that they're stressed. They may be at university and out every night, working hard during the day, partying hard in the evening, or they've got jobs which maybe they love but are constant and on the go. There is this characteristic of ignoring the need to rest, though. That is kind of fairly common. Some people have had external demands. Some people have had children or family, caring for other people, sort of beyond the normal run-of-the-mill kind of looking after a young child or looking after other members of the family by cooking them meals. Sort of external demands that are quite unrelenting. And the other thing we sometimes find is a stressful past as well. Sometimes we find the past has been stressful, and then somebody's got into what seems like a good place. They seem like everything should be okay, and then they get a virus, and then it kicks in, even though they're not necessarily living in the fast lane at that period of time. And triggers. While a virus is often a common trigger, there are other triggers we come across. We've come across people that have had it triggered from emotionally stressful events, things like bereavements, splitting up with families splitting up, marriages splitting up, that kind of emotionally stressful event, being sacked from a job when you weren't expecting it. Accidents, that's the other thing, that the physical shock of an accident seems to sometimes be a trigger. So there are other triggers. And vaccines as well. That one's another one that pops up occasionally. People will have a vaccine, and a vaccine will sometimes appear to trigger this negative spiral of health. And that's what everybody seems to end up in. And indeed, there are studies that have actually shown that being chronically ill is stressful in itself, and this is the kind of stress cycle that people get in. So that happened over 4 or 5 weeks. It was kind of a 4 or 5 week period where she went from kind of just having a virus that was the same as other people at school had got, to it being seemingly worse than what other people had and lingering around. And then it was another few months where there was a kind of fairly rapid spiral down into ill health. But Debbie's health now is fine. She works as hard as anyone else. She exercises, she runs, she's part of our business. We've just had a little girl who's now 1.5 years old. She's now fully functioning, and the journey to health took quite a while. As I say, I was studying people that got better, and I was trying whatever they said. So